Highlands. Light FM looks to me like about the only way you made any money yesterday is if you had money on the VIX. What's all that mean? Well, advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. And all that means is time to check in on your money and find out what's going on Wall Street with the help of Philip Statler from Statler Financial Services in downtown Sebring. I said earlier, Philip, I got a sneaking hunch the only people that made money yesterday were people that had money on the VIX. Is that a fair guess?
Yeah, or shorten the S&P.
Yeah, that would work too. If you shorted everything else, you'd probably do all right as well. Looking at the markets and what goes on, it was kind of funny. We were kind of off for the entire day on the major indexes, but then at 2:30, when our dear friend Jay Powell took the stage after the Federal Reserve decision, we just drifted downward even farther. The Dow ended up down 768 points. That's 1.6%. The Standard & Poor's was down by 1.36%, down 91. And NASDAQ was down almost 1.5%, too, down 327. I didn't quite have the gonads to check what the Russell did, but I got a sneaking hunch, given the future of interest rate changes, they were even less happy than the other ones, weren't they?
They just had to eke out a little worse than the Dow Industrials. They were down 1.64%.
Oh, goody. Like I said, if you did the VIX, you probably made some money, but the rest of it, you were probably screwed. Story was the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee met, and they said just exactly what we expected, that there wasn't going to be a rate decrease. But then Powell's press conference happened, and he said he made it a point to make the point that job growth is near zero, and that there are all kinds of challenges in the marketplace. The only good news that he really had is he said, we don't need to worry about stagflation. We're just worried about inflation. And nobody had any happy responses to what Powell had to say yesterday afternoon. If you found anybody that was happy, I couldn't find them.
No, me either. Me either. The markets just did not get happy yesterday at all.
Interestingly, though, the dot plot didn't change. They still project one more interest rate cut for the year. No increase in the numbers, but they didn't change that projection any either. And that kind of surprised me with that producer price index report annualizing out over 3% inflation. I thought they might even remove the one off of their calendar.
You would think, but I guess there's some optimists there.
Or drug users, one or the other. There's always that possibility. Then we get into the morning after trying to digest what the Federal Open Market Committee did, and we get first-time unemployment claims, and that kind of confirms what Powell was saying. We're not growing, but we're not shrinking either. Another week of only 205,000 claims. We were expecting considerably more than that, but 205,000 first-time jobless claims would be characterized fairly as being a very stable and a well below normal number of people looking for a new job.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the numbers, week over week have not varied much at all. So that's, I guess that's kind of good news. People are staying put, and rightfully so, because if they start moving around, who knows what's going to happen. And so I think that's maybe helping the job market a little bit, people not moving around. We haven't talked about interest rates much, Dave, but I was looking this morning and dadgum, they're just getting up there again. The 30 years back almost to 5 is at 4.9%. The 10-year up 4.31. So we've got some numbers that are, interest rates are getting higher. I noticed this morning gold and silver's falling like a rock again. So a lot of uncertainty out there.
Absolutely, and that we talk about uncertainty being dead poison for the stock markets. The quote from Jerry from Jay Powell was quote unquote, the thing I really want to emphasize is that nobody knows. You know, the economic effects could be bigger, they could be smaller, they could be much smaller or much bigger. Boy, when that comes from the guy that's got his finger on every lever on the economy, that's a scary thought if you got money in the markets, isn't it?
Yeah, when he doesn't know, right?
Yeah, because he's got all the data, including a lot of the stuff weeks before we get it, and he's basically shrugging his shoulders and saying, "What the heck? I'm glad I'm not going to be the chairman in 3 months." Which he hasn't said, but I'll bet you a nickel he's thinking that, don't you think?
At this point, he very well may be.
Net result is all those nice little good feeling gains that we had kind of went out the window yesterday, and it was largely on the basis of that. And the bad news is oil is starting to knock its nose on the $100 mark. It's gaining again this week. It's not at 100, but it's going up into the upper 90s now. You mentioned that there was a big difference between the two classes of crude. We quote the world oil market, the WTI crude number. That's the stuff that affects us directly. But it's starting to affect other markets that don't really have any relationship whatsoever to the Strait of Hormuz, like the Brent crude. That's what the British pull out of the North Sea. It's always been a little bit more expensive, and well, you and I were noodling it through before we went. Largely, that's because of extraction expenses, because it's all pretty much deep sea stuff. But boy, has it been going up lately as well. It's at, what did you see this morning?
It hit as high as 119 overnight.
Crap.
It's still up 5.3% from yesterday's close. I mean, it's trading about at 113 right now. So, it's one of those things that you're right. We always look at the WTI, which is the West Texas crude. And so that's really, I think one thing is that may help us here shortly is at least there's some rumors. Who knows for sure if he'll do it? But I wouldn't doubt he'd do it, right? Is that the president's talking about, or rumors out, that he's going to ban exportation of oil from the United States, which, let's face it, Dave, makes sense, right? Why would we want to export it when prices are so high? We need to keep it here, where it's easily accessible.
It's honestly never made a lot of sense to me that the big oil exploration companies end up selling oil overseas and taking advantage of ups and downs of oil prices when, basically we're still importing some, not a lot, but we're still importing some of our oil from overseas, which when the markets are as hinky as they are, make no sense. President Trump is doing a lot of things that are little things that kind of fly under the radar. He's also waiving what's called the Jones Act. That's a pause on the requirement that only U.S. ships can travel between domestic ports in an effort to try to fight energy prices. Economists aren't necessarily too impressed by that as being kind of under the radar, but there are little procedural things that are being done in order to keep the price of our oil, I can't say down, because you mentioned that you saw $4 a gallon gas, but at least somewhat under control would be a fair way to put it.
Yeah, yeah. This morning I did see 402 coming to work, and I just you just kind of cringe when that happens.
makes makes me glad I got a 30-mile-a-gallon compact in my driveway. You guys that drive the big vehicles, I worry about. It's an unsettled time is the bottom line. And it's even impacting on companies that report their earnings. And, I don't know whether Micron hit it out of the park or not, but they definitely had a good report. But I'm seeing on my ticker this morning, it's not helping their stock price any, is it?
No, it's not. Not sure exactly why either, because it did hit it out of the park. They earned $12.20 a share. Expectation was $9.30. That's a big beat. Revenue of 3 billion or more, better than expected as well. I got to think that investors maybe were focused on some of the comments in the investor meeting about increased spending to start ramping up some output, which you would think revenue would come in with that. But the other thing to look at is the stock's up more than 350% in the last 12 months. So it could have just been, hey, let's take some profits off the table when it comes to Micron. But you're right, it's trading down 5.5% this morning.
Yeah, they put the fact there's a little profit taking, plus the fact that they used a dirty word, capital expenditures, which we've kind of discovered this year on the tech industry, is not something that makes analysts happy, is it?
No, it's not. And I will tell you that Micron's issues are falling over to other companies, memory companies, Seagate, Western Digital, SanDisk. Those guys are all trading down this morning as well.
And I think we're starting to feel the price of all the basic memory chips because that there's a shortage and the price has been going up markedly, which is going to mess with everything from cell phones to zip drives.
That's right. It is. And we're starting to see that priced into the computers now.
Absolutely. Any other indications you see this morning? I mean, basically the Fed was the big news story of the day yesterday. Anything else that you noticed?
Got two more that worth mentioning. Alibaba, the
Mm-hmm.
big company, Chinese company, giant e-commerce, kind of big, giant top line guy. They had weaker than expected fourth quarter results. They missed by about 6 billion won. And so that was not good for them. They also said that their net income tumbled 66% year over year. So that doesn't sound good. So
No.
they're trading about 6.7% down this morning.
600
The
million won. That's about a buck and a half, isn't it?
yeah,
I have no idea what the foreign exchange is.
me either. The last one I have for you is a local. Well, we have some local stores here. Five Below.
Hmm.
Five Below had a good quarter. They beat by 31 cents a share, came in at 431. Revenue slightly ahead of expectations. They guided their first quarter earnings well above what the consensus estimate was. And so they're up getting close to 6% right now.
Hmm. Take it happily. Good to see somebody with some good news for the day. Resetting the table, it was bloodbath is always sounds like a hyperbolic term, so I'm going to let that one sit, but it was definitely red. About the only big green number I've got is the VIX. The volatility index is over 6%. 45 minutes before we open this morning, what are we looking at?
Well, right now the VIX and oil is about the only thing I see in the green right now, Dave. Unfortunately, the Dow is down a little over 0.6%. The S&P 500 is down 0.7%, and the Nasdaq 100 is down a little over 0.8%. Russell 2000 is trying to take the lead here. It's down 1.1% this morning. On the other side, silver is really taking a slide right now, down 13.25% to
Ooh.
$67.31 an ounce. Gold is not far behind it, down 6.5% to $4,576 an ounce. Crude oil up almost 7/10 to $96.17 a barrel.
And with the president's saber rattling about threatening to take out Iran's biggest refinery, I got a sneaking hunch that probably is going to be a trend we're going to see for a few days as oil panics in the industry. Going across the ponds, the Asian Rim market uniformly down yesterday at the 6 a.m. close. The mainland Chinese indexes, one of them was down by over 2%. Everything was in the red in the Asian Rim. Over in Europe, I've also got a lot of red ink. I've got some of the indexes down by 2.8% more halfway through the European trading day. The average index in Europe, about 2.2% down at this point in time, halfway through the day. I got a lot of red, and it's not my favorite color, Philip, especially when I'm looking at retiring someday in the future. How do I find you to get my retirement plans back into the green somehow?
David, give us a call at 863-382-0037 to schedule their core retirement design, where we'll make sure that they're on the right path to that retirement they always dreamed of. And then catch the Statler Financial Radio Show this weekend, 6 a.m. and noon on Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning on Highlands News Talk, 7:30 a.m., 95.3 FM.
And newstalk730am.com. And we will talk again tomorrow morning, and hopefully we'll have a better set of news items to share with folks. Fair enough?
Fair enough, buddy. You have a great day.
Thank you, my friend. It's 105.7 Light FM and Statler Financial Services. Philip Statler.
Hey, folks, again, I want to thank you for joining us today. Tune in this weekend. I'll be back tomorrow, too. Tune in tomorrow, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye now.